Chapter 5. How Tybert the cat caused Reynard to be caught in the trap and ate both halves of the sausage. Poor Reynard. Only the hard-hearted would fail to pity him. He had had his share of troubles, but there were more to come. Our times are a hard school for anyone who hopes to lead his own life and earn his liberty. After Eastgrim had disappeared, the fox rolled on his back in the thorns, biting the bark round the foot of the trees and thinking that he would nearly go mad. But even the fury of his revolt still expressed vitality, a refusal to abandon the struggle. He let his grudges mount up, and instinctively his memory took note of circumstances and faces. Neither would he abandon any of his grievances or desires for vengeance. Suddenly he became aware of a presence and stood up. He was not mistaken. Tybert the cat had jumped silently down from a branch and was standing before him, observing him from a few feet away.
"Good evening, Reynard," said Tybert sweetly.
"You'd better be on your way," said Reynard. "I don't speak to vagrants."
"By my tail," replied the cat. "Why not?"
"By mine," said Reynard, "because I don't."
Tybert reclined lazily on the ground, purring like a spinning wheel. He had a furry, gleaming coat, a broad face with silver whiskers, and he sat at his ease, playing with his tail in the grass. His paws moved as quickly as his tail, one pursuing, one escaping, both in the same graceful fashion.
"Dear tail, beloved tail," he purred, "lithe, jointed, waving like the breeze. You're just as cunning as I am."
"Mine is bushy," said Reynard, "a soft muff, warm when I doze, with fine black markings at the tip, not white ones such as ordinary foxes have. By my nose."
"By mine," said Tybert.
"By my teeth," began Reynard again.
"By my claws," murmured the cat.
He showed them, taking them in and out, admiring them in the sunshine. He was not one of those farm cats whom Reynard would cheerfully have killed when necessary, but a wild cat, a powerful woodland beast. The fox had no need to continue his examination to appreciate their mutual condition. He himself had been fasting for several days and would perhaps not have put up a good fight with this well-armed ruffian. There was a silence, through which the cat could be heard purring.
"I was up there," said Tybert in the end. "I saw that revolting wolf, that guzzler."
Another short silence, and Tybert went on in the same way, watching Reynard out of the corner of his eye and interrupting his chant with his smooth purring.
"That brutal cat, that cutthroat, highwayman, that ham-stealer, Eastgrim."
At each word Reynard gave a little nod of his head, with the result that at the end of the recital his neck was a trifle longer. Seeing this, Tybert came closer.
"Is he not my enemy too?" he said. "Let us work together, Reynard. The whole weight of his fat head isn't worth an ounce of our brains. And don't be angry. I'm old. I've had more experience than you. Where were you going? To Malpass?"
"Not without taking some food with me," said Reynard. "I'll try again tonight to catch a hare or a partridge."
"It's a long time till sunset," said Tybert. "Let's start together now."
And pricking his ears towards a dell where the sound of an axe could be heard, he asked,
"Who's felling trees near the great glade?"
"Lanfet, the forester," said Reynard.
"Have you looked in his haversack?"
"I won't steal from him," said Reynard. "He's a good man and he's kind to us."
"Us?" said Tybert.
"Yes, us, the animals whom he sees living in the woods, except for Bruin the bear with his clumsy feet, for he breaks down his beehives in the glade and steals the honey."
"As you wish," said Tybert. "Then I'll go through his bag. He's fat enough to have a fierce appetite and enough food to satisfy it."
Reynard remained silent, more and more angry with Tybert. The rage he had felt earlier began to heat his blood again, as though it had only been waiting to find an excuse. And Tybert meanwhile despised Reynard's simplicity, which had led him to say friendly words about Lanfet, for the cat considered this was treachery. In this way those who look well disposed contemplate each other's destruction. Is this the right way, Reynard? I'm going towards the sound of the axe. It's a little more to the left. And I want to be leeward in case Lanfert has a dog. They were going along a very narrow, winding path, one of those tracks that the woodmen make and the animals willingly follow. Reynard knew that they were nests for traps, and his eyes searched all round. All at once he caught sight of an oak tree stump at the side of the pathway, full of knots, leaning over in a strange fashion, half blocking the way. He noticed the slit in time and the latch that held it open. As lithe as a fairground juggler, he stood aside in front of Tybert. Oh, how clever they were, and how well it was arranged. After you, sir. I should be ashamed, sir. After you. Reynard spun round, hoping to hide the trap. Tybert saw it and pretended to stumble, and he pushed Reynard so cleverly with his shoulder that the fox's paw touched the spring and caused the trap to close. Click, said the trap. Sorry, said Tybert. My tail, said Reynard. He jumped and succeeded in shifting his paw, but just as he believed himself safe, he felt the oaken jaw seize him hard by the tail. What's the matter? Said the cheeky Tybert. Are you following me, friend Reynard? Oh, you wicked traitor, said the fox. You know very well what's the matter. I'm caught. Then Tybert began pretending again. At last, I see, I understand. My good Reynard, my friend, has been caught, and it's my own fault, my own stupid clumsiness. He was exulting, and Reynard could see it. His green eyes were gleaming with wicked delight. He lowered his gaze and moved a little distance away on the darkened pathway. Didn't you give me a little push? He said. I'm sorry, I thought you did, and I must have accidentally stumbled. Ah, Reynard, your bushy tail with the fine black markings at the tip. Oh dear, you'll either have to lose it or else perish beneath the axe strokes of your good friend Lanfert. And so saying, he jumped, clinging by his claws to the trunk of a beech tree, calling after the captive as he plunged beneath the leaves. That's his footstep. There he is, he's coming. Goodbye, Reynard. Good luck all the same. Lanfert had heard the trap close. He ran to it, thinking it was Bruin the bear, and he was already brandishing his axe, his long, heavy, sharp axe, gleaming like a flash of blue lightning in the shadow of the undergrowth. Reynard was squatting so closely against the tree stump that at first glance Lanfert did not see him. The bear has escaped, he thought. He's clever, but I'll have him in the end. He came closer, with the intention of setting the trap again. Reynard raised his muzzle, and Lanfert saw the gleam of his teeth. So it's only you, poor wretch, in such a big trap, and you're caught by the tail, Reynard. Reynard pulled desperately, with fierce tugs that strained his spine, each one ending in a jerk, as sharp as though he were being beaten with a stick. And Lanfert laughed and laughed at Reynard. All his strength and his youthful gaiety poured out in loud, never-ending laughter, echoing into the distance through the wood, attracting towards the path every creature that flew, crawled, or ran. Tits and willow warblers, Karkar the jay, Turslin the crow, Tetris the big grouse, and Guttero the hare from the undergrowth, and Coney the little rabbit. It's a fox. Lambert's caught him. The forester put down his axe, seized Reynard's nose in one hand, and with his other hand and his knee he loosened the trap just enough to free the tail, and then took hold of it. What a grip on Reynard's muzzle, by the devil, as hard as the blacksmith's ring. The fox was as light as a feather in comparison. Swaying from the woodcutter's wrist, he disappeared into the game bag, and Lanfert fastened the straps round it. In fact, the man did not know what he was going to do with Reynard. Perhaps he would be a surprise for Daisy, his young wife, or a shock for old Julia, wife of Pastor Everard, and mother of Martin of Orleans. But Reynard, in the bottom of the bag, knew even less than Lanfert. Although the bag was a huge one, fit for a giant more than 6 feet tall to carry, he felt almost suffocated, with his head downwards and the blood throbbing in his ears. Lanfert walked on, singing and whistling, still swinging him backwards and forwards, no longer like a sling from his wrist, but just with the rhythm of his long steps in pitch darkness. Reynard would have been admirable if he had kept his head through this. As he swung heartbroken and blinded, he began to gnaw the canvas. First of all he made a little hole, just for air. Then he could breathe and he felt better. He He struggled on. With his canine teeth and enlarging the hole with his paw, he worked away. Then one shoulder passed through, and all at once he fell out and rolled onto the grass. Crouching quietly, he watched the big red coat disappear, its silhouette standing out against the setting sun. The axe gleamed like the sun itself. Lanfert was singing. He had noticed nothing. Reynard stretched one paw, then another. It was still almost broad daylight and the air was golden. His paws were supple. His tail was still there, slightly bruised but intact, and not one hair had been torn out. The only trouble was his empty stomach. Reynard's stomach, my stomach, accursed may it be if I do not fill it and content both of us. And just as he was thinking this, a smell reached his nostrils, a breath, a balm, a perfume, a fragrance succulent enough to overwhelm him. What was it? By St. Anthony, there was a sausage lying in the grass. It had fallen out of the bag along with Reynard. He seized it and was just about to devour it. But he thought of Ermelyn, and he looked at the glorious sausage, its roundness filling out the skin, fat and gleaming. He wanted Ermelyn to admire it before they ate it together. They would have tender mouthfuls at Malpas. Newlyweds are like that. He was racing away, with the sausage in his mouth, when a voice struck him and stopped him short. "I'm due for a share in that," it said. "I was there, Reynard." He thought he was meeting trouble. It was Tybert the cat, who had had the incredible audacity to follow Lanfert and, still fresh from his wickedness, to demand his share of the feast. Reynard growled, ready to attack, but anxiety made him perceive 100 dangers. Should he drop the sausage? Should he fight while his eyes were still confused with darkness, while Tybert's sight became sharper as the light faded? Should he undergo some new treachery, lose face and still have an empty stomach? It was better to pretend and gain time while going in the direction of Malpas. They trotted along side by side like two comrades returning from market. "It breaks my heart, Reynard," said the wily Tybert. "I must tell you, to see a sausage carried that way. Good heavens, holding it with your mouth wide open, right in the middle, dribbling over it and dragging the ends through the dust." Reynard stopped. "How would you do it?" He made his plan in 1 second. The sausage was heavy and it made him tired. Lanfert had led him a long way over the plain. By the time he had reached the wood again, he would be out of breath and beaten in advance if Tybert wanted to fight. So let Tybert carry the sausage. Let Tybert tie himself out instead. He would not move an inch away from him. At the boundary he would take the sausage back and run towards his stronghold so directly and so quickly that Tybert would not see him for dust. "Like this," replied the cat, the old trickster, with his usual finesse. Between his teeth he nipped the transparent skin of Lady Sausage, with her little frilled collar above the string, balanced her gracefully and threw her up along his back until she rested between his shoulders. "There," he said, "that's how a sausage should be carried. Like that it won't get wet or dirty. It's out of kindness, believe me, for you saw it first." As they went along, Reynard kept his eye on him. He remained patient, cut across the fields in order, he said, to shorten the distance, but in reality to wear Tybert out by crossing clods of earth and furrows. Finally they came close to the forest. Reynard saw the cross grow larger against the sky on its high pedestal. In a patch of transparent light where the glow of day still lingered, the evening star was beginning to twinkle. "Good," he said. "Now it's my turn. Give it back to me, friend Tybert, and now you can see if I've learnt my lesson well." But what happened next? What was this strange occurrence? The star went out and a black shape appeared in its place. Tybert, yet again, or a magician? Or some demon with claws? No, it was decidedly Tybert, and with him, alas, was the sausage. He shot up like St. Elmo's fire and perched on an arm of the festival cross. Seated there, he passed his tongue over his chops and balanced his dinner carefully. "Come up, Reynard. The other arm's for you. Take your place." Reynard stood close up against the cross, drawing himself up until his back and his neck creaked. Tybert was eating, not like Heathgrim, but for Reynard it was even worse. He was eating quickly and daintily, purring away, sighing with satisfaction, his eyes half closed. "I want my share," growled the fox. "Throw it down and I'll let you off."
Have I eaten it? Replied Tybert. A broken promise brings bad dreams. I like to sleep as well as a newborn kitten.
That's enough mockery, perjurer, cutthroat. Throw down my share. I'll break your back, Tybert, when you come down.
I'll stay up for a month, Reynard.
And what will you have to drink?
God loves me, said Tybert unctuously. At night the cool dew collects in the hollow of the cross. It's nectar.
In 7 years, then. 7 years, if necessary.
Do you swear it?
By my snout!
He jumped, yapped, wept and shouted until finally he lay down at the foot of the cross, his burning eyes never leaving the cat. Tybert began to eat again, and between each mouthful he let fall a poisoned shaft of mockery. Oh, what a lovely sausage! Do come up, Reynard. I can't wait any longer. I feel that I'm going to finish it. Come up quickly so that I'm not guilty of mortal sin. Sausage, dear sausage, saucy sausage. If I eat it all, Reynard, I'll give you the next one whole as soon as we find it. I'll leave it to you. I'll hand it over. I'll abandon it. All of it, in toto, and justice will have been done. All of it, Reynard, I swear by my tail.
I'll cut it off, growled Reynard.
Is that another oath? Said Tybert. By
my teeth, my throat, and my eyes.
And by the trap that caught you.
He licked his chops. He finished the sausage, and yet the day lingered on. Far in the distance, the well of the Carmelite monks at Turin could be heard creaking. A carter called out. A dog barked. Then another one. Tybert and Reynard both pricked up their ears, one from above, the other from below. But only Tybert, perched on high, could follow what was happening on the distant plain. This was not the yapping of dogs, but the baying of hounds, and the voices came nearer, making deep, throaty sounds like bloodhounds returning to kennels, already on their way to the feeding trough. I can see them, muttered the treacherous Tybert. I wouldn't squint even with my mouth full. I'm an old cat, Reynard. In spite of himself, the fox listened to him. This barking did not please him at all. I can see Robert de la Mollette, the vavaseur, returning from the hunt, malking his urchin with his nose to the ground. He's coupled with his twin joker. They're coming our way. They're picking up the scent. They're lifting their tails. He choked between his words so loudly that Reynard jumped. Robert's bending down, Tybert went on. He's unleashing them. They're coming straight here, as fast as they can. They're here. Reynard waited no longer. He took to his heels and fled into the wood. Reynard! Reynard! Called Tybert. Will you have forgotten in 7 years' time? Where are you running like that, Reynard? Your muzzle, your teeth, your throat and your eyes, Reynard. What a lot of oaths for the skin of a sausage!